Okay.
So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Old World Designs, we have been in business for 30 years, since 1991, and a full service needlepoint store. And as part of our COVID programming, we repeat this stitch in every Thursday from 6 to 7:30. Currently it is Pacific Standard Time, although I think we're changing the clock soon.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, June McKnight and I have been friends since 1991. And she was my first teacher at my store. And then a bit later, Suzanne Attenborough became a teacher at the store as well. And we have been conducting our classes virtually via Zoom. So June is going to begin our program, and she is going to give you all a short quiz. I will tell you, whoever wins gets the most answers correct, we are giving away as a prize June's bling book. So,
Yay.
Yeah.
whoever wins, and we will, if there's a tie, we're going to have a tiebreaker question. But whoever wins gets the bling book. So anyway, please, June, take it away.
Okay.
In all of your loveliness.
Wow. For those of you that may not know this, that I began my professional career as a real school teacher. I taught high school English and other things, drama, other things too. So in my teacherly voice from that era, I want you to take out a piece of paper and number from 1 to 8. You're getting a quiz. And you can't give me the excuses that I didn't warn you ahead of time. Yes, this counts. So I have heard all those excuses. So number from 1 to 8.
I need another pencil. Here it is. 4.
Wait, where are you going?
Oh, goodness.
Combobulated here, Pixie.
What we're about to do is celebrate, because of election time and all the political stuff going on. We're going to take it from a different point of view, a beautiful point of view about First Lady Bling. When I wrote the Bling book a number of years ago, I had the honor and privilege of going to the museum and checking out the First Lady's gowns at the museum. And I don't know if you know this, but the museum does not ask for the gowns. The First Lady has to agree to give it to them. And if her husband wins a second election and wins and gets the second term, that gown is not ever eligible to be put on display. And the display changes because textiles are very dear and delicate, and so the museum people will change out the display. So the First Lady Bling you're going to see was what was on display the day I was there. So I want you to take a look at the bling and tell me, and the first question is, who do you think wore this bit of bling as First Lady? And write her name down in your number 1 spot. And while you're doing that, I can tell you that the materials used on this example was, first of all, Kreinik metallic. Those little silvery things there are cross stitches in Kreinik. The oval is a rhinestone button, just a traditional button with a shank on it. And that little fluff around that beautiful centerpiece is actually frosty rays. And I pulled the filament so it became kind of like a ruffle, and it's been tacked down. And it finishes out with some 3mm pearls that have been put on a wire so they will stick up and away from the fabric. So who do you think wore this? No cheating, just write down the name of the First Lady that you think had this on her gown. Okay. Ready for number 2? This was done with a thread that is unfortunately no longer available. It was done with this DMC memory thread. I don't know why they gave up on it because it was a marvelous wiry thread. There are other alternatives that I will show you that can be used in its place. And Kreinik 001 High Luster was used to tack down that memory wire that formed the heart shape. Surrounding it are some Swarovski crystals, 6 millimeter and 2 millimeter. The 6 millimeter, the larger size on the outside, and then the smaller ones in the middle. Please identify the First Lady. Who wore it? Okay.
This is way harder than I thought it would be.
Well, I told you that wouldn't be easy.
We
I
didn't
never
get
was
this
easy on my
So what was
sophomores
the
in high
era-
school
did we-
either.
Did we have what was the era time-wise? Do we have
That you would have probably known all of these First
all of
Ladies.
these? Okay.
It's current. It's nothing antique.
Can't even remember them.
Okay. Number 3.
Uh-oh.
This was done with Miyuki silver line bugle beads. And I have to tell you that actually I did not buy these beads at Linda's store because purple beads at that time were very difficult to locate. The other thing that makes this rather precious is these bugle beads, those that look like almost like eyelashes, those bugle beads were silver lined. So I have to tell you, I spent a king's ransom for these beads.
Mm.
And the color is called dark violet.
Beautiful.
And what they're leaning on to give it that scallop is facets. That's a Kreinik material. It's like little sparkles on a string, FACETS. And facets is still available and it's in the metallic colors. And that would be a good alternative for the heart that you saw earlier because the memory thread is not available, facets is. It's kind of rough and bumpy, which is kind of fun. And then next to it is Swarovski crystals again, 6 and 8 millimeters. And again, those same little tiny beads in dark violet. Again, that comes from the company, or they're called Miyuki is the company, and the color is called Margarita. I have no idea why Margarita.
see it.
Not anything like the margarita that you and I would consume had we been thinking ahead and made ourselves one before the party.
I can't see it. Where is it?
What are you looking for?
Number 4? Is that number 4?
This is number 3. This
Oh,
is number
okay.
3.
Okay.
Mhm.
Forget it.
We'll also have a review at the very end in case you missed something or
Okay.
still want to think. Okay, the next one, number 4. This was done with Kreinik 003, all those little outlines that form the 4 little wings. That was done with Kreinik as a cross stitch. And in the middle of that is a cup sequin. A lot of the sequins we have today that we're using needlepoint are flat. They don't have the cup shape. If they do, they're a little bit older style. They are 8 millimeter sequins, and in the center is a bead. And then in the very middle, if you look close, you can see there's a red rhinestone. And you don't see how it's attached because on the back side of it, it has channels done with a little silver backing. So the needle goes through the little channel and you never see the thread. It's just attached right to the canvas. So who is the lady in red that wore this particular?
Oh, thank you.
Gave that one away.
Yeah.
Ding dong.
You'd
I've
be
been waiting for
surprised. You'd be surprised. Okay, we're moving on to, are you ready to move on to big number 5?
Sure.
Okay, they said yes, so here we go. This is very light, but hopefully you can see it. This is also Miyuki, and it's crystals, and there are 8 millimeter ones around the rim to form a little flower shape, and the center of the flower are smaller 6 millimeter crystal beads, also by Miyuki. Okay.
Do not know.
No, well, can you remember First Ladies' names?
All right. Is that important?
Okay. On to number 6. This again is memory thread, unfortunately no longer available, but remember we can use the other thread I pointed out to you earlier. Memory thread would circle around. Then there are pearls, and the pearls are 3 millimeter. There's also bugle beads. And if you look really closely in the right-hand side, about 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock position, there are some leaf-shaped sequins and some tiny beads that are holding them down. So.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
Okay.
Do not know.
Okay, you have 2 more chances here to win. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next one, number 7. Number 7 is Frosty Rays. It almost has a Hawaiian appearance to it. Frosty Rays long stitch in a Bargello fashion, and then Sundance beads ends are sequins again. The Sundance beads are 14-0, and then the sequins are that pale green to form the trunk. And if you look slightly to the right, you will see some leaves. That comes from Mill Hill Glass Treasures, and that big X or the triangle around it has been just done with Krynic number 12. Who is the lady that would wear this pretty setting? And by the way, the inaugural funds do not fund the First Lady's gown. She has to pay it out of her own spending money. Okay, and number 8, the big flurry of an ending here. This is that gilt pearl. This is another strange metallic. Actually, it's called English gold. It looks like tiny little beads that are hooked together. They aren't. There's just a wire that's been created to look like a little pipe. It's hollow in the middle, and it can be cut with scissors. Not your best pair because it will dull the scissors. And to attach it, you take a very fine sewing thread and you pull it through one of the little spaces between the 2 little balls and until you hear a click, and that holds it down in place. So this little swirly design is created with that gilt pearl. It's called P-E-A-R-L, like a pearl bead actually, and it comes in silver and gold, and it's a gold plate, so it does tarnish a little bit. And then in the midst of all of that is some beautiful golden beads, and those golden beads are 8 millimeters, so they're considerably big. Okay, so one more picture here. Take your final guess. There are the pictures once more.
God.
Be sure that you have the answer that you think it might be.
And remember, whoever the winner is gets the bling book. Remember.
They're going to cheat, Linda.
I already have. I have the book.
You're disqualified.
Good girl. You're the winner for sure. You got the book.
That's not fair.
Okay, now like I would say to my, at this point, if you were really in my junior class, English class, I would say, okay, trade off your sheet to your neighbor sitting next to you, and you'll grade each other's paper. But you do that with Zoom, so you have to promise me you're going to be honest and you're going to answer or proof your own things here. So number 1.
Wait, I got.
Did you guess, Michelle?
Oh,
And I have to tell you that it did not photograph very well, but in real life, it was glorious. All these little butterfly looking things were fluttering on her dress. And she chose a Black young design student, Jason Wu, to be the designer of this dress. So she gave a young coming up through the ranks the opportunity to design for her. So pretty lady, huh? Pretty lady.
Looks a lot happier there, doesn't she?
Yeah, and younger.
Yeah.
Not so worried about the world as she is now. So, okay, moving on. How many got that one?
I did.
I get her later on. I had later
You
on.
had her later on. No, there were no repeats. These were all individual first ladies.
No, yeah, I know. I just goofed and guessed her later. Okay.
Well, it's okay. Number 2 is Nancy Reagan, the little
Oh,
sparkly
pretty.
heart.
Right,
That bodice of her dress was entirely encrusted with designs like this. There were other designs as well. You'll see that in the bling book, but this one was particularly charming. We kind of associated. I bet you guessed the red dress was hers later on, but
Yeah.
and
Yes.
her designer was James Galanos, and that was a man that she had a lot of wardrobe designed for her. So he was not new to the design world and certainly not new to Nancy.
I don't like that. I don't think that, she wore other things that look better.
Well, I think think back on the era, though, that puffy sleeve kind of look was in at that time.
Yeah, that was very in back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she too looks really happy. So
She
And
would be.
I have to say,
Because she just didn't know what she was getting in for.
She's an actress.
yeah, yeah.
No, she was
There you go.
fashion forward.
So it was kind of appropriate to be sort of over the top with the gown. I like the sleeves, actually. I think that is quite attractive. And it was more like a taffeta fabric, so it was quite poofy.
Mm.
Okay, on to number 3.
she's so little, but that looks really well on her.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I got that.
Okay, Miss Hillary.
We're
Miss
wrong,
Hillary.
too.
Now, her dress was actually lace, and they encrusted the entire lace with those little, beautiful little, looks like butterflies to the left. And the silver with the beautiful beads, that appeared on her shoe.
Oh.
Dress had the little butterflies on it, and her shoe from Bruno there had the sparkly that you see there. So,
Mm.
fun. Boy, don't they look young, huh?
right.
Oh, yes.
He looks like a Southern boy. Okay, moving on. There's a lady in red. I bet you guessed now.
Oh,
Didn't guess this one, did you?
Oh, I forgot all about
Oh, I
her.
forgot
A
about
very serious looking Republican dress, isn't she? It's done with actually Chantilly lace in red, which is very rare. And then all the designs on the dress were re-embroidered. And this little pattern that I shared with you repeated itself throughout the dress. So it's very simply done, very charmingly done with her pretty little pearls at her neck.
Mm.
I forgot about the Republicans somehow.
Yeah,
Lord.
designed by Michael Faircloth.
I listed them all so
Scotty
far.
dogs.
Had 'em, but yeah.
They had 2 Scotty dogs.
Yeah, that's what we love.
Yes, they were.
And she
very-
did a lot for education too, I have
Yes.
to say, having been
She
a
Did, and
teacher.
I think the dress reflects her. She was
Yeah.
very,
Very much so.
Grumpy.
It's very tailored.
Right.
that's the word I would use. Very
Yeah.
tailored, very simple, not a lot of.
Understated. Yeah.
And yet a flashy
Yeah.
color. So, the
Yeah, but-
contrast with the stateliness of it, the red color was interesting. And I think she really did contribute a lot to education. So First Ladies
With a
can be so
librarian, that's why.
involved.
Just like me.
Well, one of the bushes wore red.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Moving on.
Okay.
This was a hard one. Mamie loved pink.
Yeah.
So a lot of
I
her
got.
wardrobe was pink, 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 pink. And this was, again, kind of a taffeta material. And the entire thing was crusted with these little flowers everywhere. The picture does not do it justice. In fact, in real life, it must have weighed a ton because all of those little hoops were beads on it. So
Maybe that's
it's
why
fun.
she's sitting down.
Maybe that's it. She did not participate. Speaking of First Ladies and influence, she didn't participate a lot in the government at that time. She preferred to stay up in her room and bring some friends in for lunch, and then they would watch movies.
Oh.
So is she the one who eventually, did she have Alzheimer's eventually or something was mentally?
Nancy, I believe.
I
ended up.
think she was an alcoholic.
That's what
Oh,
That
she
was a Ford, wasn't it?
Married to Ike, baby, huh?
yeah.
You can tell the change in times because when they left office, they hopped into a convertible and drove back to where I don't know where Missouri or wherever they were from, and
Yeah.
without any Secret
Protecting.
Service or anything.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Mm.
it's a different era, and
Yeah.
with the top down. Oh, yeah, okay. Now, her little designer, Nettie Rosenstein, was a designer that she was also a good friend. So that's how Nettie got the job.
Well, and the purse is really, the clutch is really pretty too. It
Yeah,
looks,
she's just, and her gloves up to the elbow,
Yep.
past the elbow.
Eisenhower, that's not the way you spell Eisenhower, right? It has that, it's.
Oh, I misspelled. Good eye catch there. Good eye catch.
No
You
H.
get 1 extra point for that.
I haven't
You got
got
a
any
point.
of them
Now
right.
you've got a point. That's what.
8 point. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay,
oh,
so
that's
Patricia
I
Nixon,
completely
remember
forgot
she had
about
the
her.
coat that was so plain and simple. Well, her dress certainly wasn't. It was encrusted with many designs similar to the one you see here. In the bling book, I show you others. This was, the whole bodice was encrusted and the jacket was encrusted in this fashion.
Look at that hair.
Yeah, the hair.
Ooh, thank you.
Bouffant.
Okay.
We all wanted hair like that back in the day.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were we thinking?
Ratted back, so it was fluffy. So, okay. Moving on,
tease.
guys. Okay. Did you guess Betty Ford?
oh, I forgot that.
I finally got one.
No, I thought that was Michelle Obama. Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Now, I have a little sidebar note to you that Betty Ford was very practical in her approach to life. And this little coat dress that you see, she wore it not only for the inauguration, there wasn't a ball, it was just a party. And then afterwards, she kept the dress throughout her term of presidency, First Lady, and wore it to many state functions. So she got her money's worth. The other dresses that you've seen so far, worn once and sent off to the Smithsonian. But Betty kept hers and kept wearing it and wearing it and wearing it. It was designed by Frankie Welsh again.
Oh, yes. I know that store in DC.
Okay.
Shop there.
And on to the next. Last but not least, Rosalind Carter.
Oh, I got that one.
That
Oh,
big,
yeah,
the whole
yeah.
bodice and the lapels and down to the floor and around the hemline was this braid, several rows of it that you see. Must have weighed a ton, although she gracefully is walking with a very light skirt beneath it. So I like the president's hand holding hers almost. So,
Yes.
When you get a really heavy dress on, I had one that weighed about 9 pounds, which doesn't sound, but anyway, it had feathers and then Swarovski crystals and ball gowns.
Oh yeah, this.
But
Swarovski
once you
could
get
weigh a
it
ton.
on, you don't really notice the weight.
Okay.
So
Well,
what you
that
do
was-
notice is when you start to spin,
Yeah. Okay.
you have to start early because it's going to continue to make you go.
Well, I have one more thing here for you to see if I can get it up here. Let's see here. Let's see. I want the basic.
I noticed Barbara Bush wasn't included.
You know why? She had no bling on her dress.
Right. I thought
She,
figures.
she had
Yep.
no bling on her dress. It was just a taffeta and navy blue. So anyway, so how did you do on your test?
Did anybody get all of them?
I did.
Zero.
Zero.
Who's that?
But I don't think I count since I cheated. I had the book.
No, shame on you. No
I got
cheating.
none. I got this many. None.
Cheaters don't go to heaven.
Zero. Zero.
Okay.
Good.
Did
Got one.
Well, you decide, Miss Linda. I did the test. You pick the winner.
Well, wait a minute. So did anyone get 7? Did anyone get 6? Did anyone get 3? 4? 3 or 4?
Uh-uh.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, wow, wow.
This was a hard test.
Yeah. Okay. So did anybody, how many people got 2?
I did.
I did.
Two.
I did
Two.
too, but I have the book, so.
No.
Okay, so again, Judy is
I
out.
have the book too, so you can pass on me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
who else got 2? I'm
I
sorry.
did,
I
Nancy.
got 2.
And
I got 2.
Helen? Okay, so Nancy and Helen got 2,
I got 2.
I got
Janet.
Yeah.
No, I got one.
and Janet. Okay, so Janet, Nancy, and Helen, am I correct?
No, I got one.
2.
All
So
right,
2 people with 2?
there's
One.
two.
I got 2.
So Janet got 2, and who else? Farrellyn.
Carolyn got 2.
And Nancy.
And Nancy got 2. So we have 3 women. All right. So we have to have a tiebreaker, girls.
No.
So I'm going to write down a number. The number is between 1 and 30. And I want you each to tell me a number. Janet?
21.
Okay, so Janet is 21. Okay, Farrellyn?
You're muted, Farrellyn.
Farrellyn, I need you to unmute, please.
Okay, 25.
25, okay. And Nancy Bolts, could you please pick a number?
20.
Okay, so the number I selected was 28, so Farrellyn has 1.
Oh.
Good, 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 good.
So,
Okay.
Farrellyn, I've got this book and I will put it in roll call for you.
Thank you so much.
And it's
Oh, that's
a fun-
exciting. Thank
It's
you.
a fun book.
I didn't realize we had like a bunch of customers that couldn't answer the questions properly. I'm very proud of all of you.
Goes to show you how much we really pay attention.
Yep.
Anyway, okay. So June, I
Yes.
don't know if you are finished, and Suzanne is going next. I'm not
What
sure.
do you think, Suzanne? Should I do, would you want to go? Oh, yeah, you were going to do next because you want to talk about supplies.
Supplies. Yes. So can you let me share?
June has to.
Oh, actually, I don't need to share yet. Don't need to share yet.
Yeah, you have to let me know how I do that.
Okay. Oh, yeah, but I don't need to share yet. So
Okay.
just a second.
Okay.
What happened? You went to your face.
She's muted. She probably is.
Okay. So June, can you highlight my second screen? Not the one with my face, but the other one.
Yes.
Okay. If you spotlight that.
How do I highlight that? Let's see.
There's
Spotlight.
spotlight.
Okay, spotlight for everyone.
There you go. Okay. So I'm going to talk about some supplies. And first we have beading thread.
Make her not pee before 8.
So June and I agree that our favorite beading thread is Fireline, which is like a, it's like fish line.
It has a fish on it.
Yeah, it's like fish line and it's very sturdy and beads are glass. And if you're stitching anything that's going to get any wear, the bead will eventually cut through silk. If you're stitching something that's not going to get much wear, you can use 1 or 2 strands of a silk thread like Swa or Splendor. But I highly recommend this Fireline. It's clear, so you don't see it, and it's very sturdy. It's also easy to thread through the little tiny hole in the needle.
I'm sorry, was there a size? Or is
Well, Linda carries it, and it's 6 pound.
6 pounds?
And
Great.
there's white and also a dark color as well.
Great.
And so these are beading needles, and they're a size 10. And these are a very nice needle. The problem with beading needles is they're really hard to thread. Linda also sometimes carries tulip needles, which are supposed to be easier to thread, but I have not experienced the ease of threading. So I like to use Fireline and these John James size 10 needles.
I have a question. Should we ask now or wait till later?
Oh, you can ask.
Okay, so you just mentioned about when you were talking about Fireline, that it was not a good idea to use Fireline with silk threads.
No.
Because it would cut it.
No. So you use Fireline for the beads because if you use silk thread, the bead will cut the thread eventually.
Oh, okay.
I have
Okay.
a story to share, Suzanne, that you and I talked
Yes.
about this the other day. I made a darling little clutch purse and went to a fancy wedding, and it was all beaded with silk thread because that's all we had at that time. And I looked down as I began to walk down the aisle back to our car, and the aisle was filled with my beads.
Oh, God. Oh,
Instead
man.
of throwing rice, I threw beads at the bride.
Oh, no.
So then you need something that is going to hold the beads in place. And we have a couple sticky items. People used to love a product called Tacky Bob. It no longer exists.
Oh.
There's a new product that Linda's going to start carrying called Bead Bed. That's kind of like Tacky Bob, but it has the additional plus of having a magnet for your needles. But this is a bead smith bead holder, and it's hard to explain, but it's sticky all over, and it's a nice big size. So it's good if you have a place that you're going to leave your project, and you just stick the beads on it. You just pour the beads on and they stay in place.
Nice.
Yeah, so they don't move all over, which
Thing
is
that's
really
nice about that is when it starts losing its stickiness, you just run it under some warm water and rub it,
yes.
and it comes back.
How large is that beadsmith item?
This piece is about, I think it's 5 by 7. It's pretty big.
Wow.
Okay.
They make a smaller one too. I have one that's like a 3 by 5, like the size of a note card.
Yeah, I used to have one that wasn't for beads, that was for holding your cell phone on your steering wheel. But my favorite thing to hold your beads is the accoutrements bead holder. And let me see if I can do that better. So it opens, and inside you have a magnet side for your needles and a sticky side for your beads. And this is a brand new one that I brought to show, but then this is mine that's currently in use.
Nice.
And the plus of this is that you close it up and you just leave your beads in there. And again, you can, mine has gotten somewhat unsticky. I need to get it wet and re-sticky it. But I also
didn't know that you could get it wet and re-sticky it.
Yeah, and if the warm water's not working, you can also add a little dish detergent, liquid dish soap, like Dawn, and that'll make it sticky again. And then you just close it up, and you have this nice little container that's holding all your stuff.
It's a pretty one.
And then we have another kind of beading thread, which is sturdier than using silk threads. It's called Nymo.
Yes.
Still, if it's something like a purse or a Christmas stocking, I would definitely use Fireline because you don't want your beads falling off. This is sometimes easier to thread, which is attractive. Then Linda carries all sorts of fun beads from the standard, the standard size 14, 15, and size 11 Sundance. Bugle beads, also by Sundance. These are fun little flat beads.
Oh, what are those called?
These are called flat circles.
And those
Makes
are by
sense.
Sundance? What color?
These are by the collection.
Okay.
Do they have a hole in them, or are they?
Yes, they have holes in them. So they work more like a I don't know if I can show you this. The hole goes from
North
the hole
to
goes
south.
from edge to edge. So it's not a
Further
hole
up.
in the middle.
You need to put your hand further up. There you go.
The hole
Oh,
goes
I
from
see it.
edge to edge.
It
Oh,
goes
okay.
like a hamburger.
Yeah.
You're sliding through your needle in the middle of that hamburger.
Right.
And that holds it down.
It's a disc.
It's a disc.
What colors do they come in?
I've only seen them in like a crystal, but they may come in other colors. Then we have one of my very favorite beads, which I should put on. I'm going to use my bead smith thing to show this. Is a black hex bead. So when you do lettering in the black hex, it's really shiny. And they come in 14, 15, and 11.
11 is the larger one. 14, 15
yes.
is the smaller one.
Smaller one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, here. So here, I'll show you an 11. These are a little bigger. And
Can you hold it up a little bit more? No, up toward the top.
Toward the
top.
Yeah.
There you go. And those are hex beads?
No, these are just regular, but I was showing the difference between the I'm trying to do this. I'm not being very successful. The difference between the 14, 15s and the 11s.
Yeah.
You can see there are lots, the 11s are a lot bigger. And then we also have 8s in a limited number of colors. And the 8s are a lot bigger than the 11s. And they're really good for things like berries on holly or Christmas ornaments.
Is that red or rust?
This one is like an orange rusty color.
Okay, but
this is a bright red, the number 8s.
Okay.
Is there a difference between bead size 14 versus bead size 15?
Not really. It just depends on the manufacturer and it determines that. Japanese beads, particularly, are very fussy because they not only measure the exterior of the bead but also the hole, and so their numbering is 15-0. But the other ones that are 14-0, they're not that fussy about the hole. Jewelry makers are very concerned about the size of the hole because they are going to put wire through that hole, and they need to know what size wire they should purchase. We as stitchers, we don't care because our little fire line just fits through. So.
And
I never knew that, June. Thank you.
And oftentimes jewelry making beads are lined. Remember when I showed you Mrs. Clinton's gown, those purpley beads, they were silver lined, and that raises the price on those. Probably about 4 times the price of what Linda charges you for a bead.
So then I was going to show a beading technique that you may not all know called, wait a second, called stem stitch beading. And I know Carolyn has used this a lot. And I managed to lose my needle. Just a second.
A cat trying to push everything onto the floor here.
Yes, I have one of those also. She decided that this is the perfect time to help me.
Yeah.
Well, while Suzanne's doing that, as far as the size of the bead is concerned, I'll fill in for you for a bit there, Suzanne.
Oh, good.
You thread up. The only time you are really particular about the size of the bead is when it is replacing a continental stitch. So if you're working on a 13 mesh canvas, you want to work with the larger size, 11/0 bead. When you are working on an 18 mesh, you want the 14 or 15/0. However, if the bead is not going to replace a stitch, it's merely going to sit on top of your continental or basket weave or decorative stitch, then it doesn't matter because you're just filling up an area and you're sprinkling the beads all over the thing. But if you are replacing a canvas thread, then you must match the size of the bead to the size of the canvas.
Okay, I got my needle threaded. That was a
Okay.
challenge.
Perfect timing, perfect timing.
Yes. So I'm using my accoutrements bead holder. And so with stem stitch beading, you're creating an outline that's fairly thick, but it makes a really nice visible outline. Carolyn showed me how to do this. So I'm putting 4 beads on my needle.
Oh.
And I'm going over, so I'm going over 4 canvas threads, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm coming up in the middle of that, which is where I last went down. So just like a regular stem stitch. And I'll start from the beginning so you see how it starts. So you come up, you put 4 beads on your needle. That might be the hardest part of the whole thing. And then you go over 4 canvas threads, 1, 2, 3, 4.
And you're going straight up.
Yeah, well, that's because of where I am in the design.
Okay.
But you can do it, you can do it on a curve as well.
Okay.
And then you come up in the middle, just like you would with a stem stitch.
So between 2 and 2?
Yes.
Are you coming up in between the beads or to the side of the beads?
Here, I'll show you. So it's, so see, I started here, this hole, I went down in this hole, and I came up in the hole that's directly in the middle of those 2 holes. And then I'm going to go up 2 more threads and come up in the hole in between, which is the end hole of the last stitch.
Nice.
And you see how you get this nice curve of
That's neat.
And it works really well for outlining. Carolyn did an amazing, it was a Maggie canvas where the road was outlined in this.
Oh, pretty. Pretty.
The second go round, did you add 4 beads again?
Yes, you keep adding 4 beads. And so let me get a little closer.
Then the canvas needs to go up.
Wait a second, I got to find the right part of the canvas. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it better. Yeah, that forms a nice little curve.
And there's a nice, and see how it curves up this way?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy to do a curve, and it's kind of a ropey look.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Okay, so now I'm going to turn it back to June.
Okay, I'm ready. Linda's going to show you something, and then I'm going to tell you about.
You need to
undo you,
unspotlight
huh?
me.
Okay,
Yeah,
share screen.
yeah.
Let's see. Ooh, no, that's me. Share screen. We don't want that.
So you go to my picture, the covered wagon picture, and you press remove spotlight.
Okay. Oh, where's your covered wagon here?
Oh,
there.
Okay, there. Do you see where it says next to recording, it should say spotlight.
Next to recording, okay. Functions, no. Recording, We don't want to stop the recording, cancel.
No. Well, you know what? I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to change this so it's just my picture, and that might make it easier.
Okay. Okay, and let me find you here. Okay. Remove spotlighted video, yes.
Got it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so now we want the view here. We want gallery view again. There we go. I think we got it. I think we got out of that dilemma. Okay, so I'm going to show you some things as well. And I asked Linda to bring something home for you to see.
Oh, I brought it home.
Oh, Suzanne brought it home. Well, what did I know there? Okay, so I'm going to also do this sharing here, share screen, but I'm going to do it with the basic.
You know what? I'm going to let me share screen, June, because I got a beautiful photo of it that shows it better.
Okay, so all right. So how are we going to do that?
Okay, so next to share screen, there is an up caret.
Yeah.
Click on that and click multiple participants.
There you go. We got it. This is high-tech stuff, guys.
Okay. So you can talk about it.
Okay. And then I will show you the technique that was used here. This was a project piece that was representing Mackinac Island. And the top of it is a tussie mussy. All the little flowers have a meaning to them. And in Victorian era, a man would give his lady friend a little bouquet, and she would have a little book that indicated every meaning for every flower. So this represented that. And I didn't want the top to just be basket weave next to it. I designed the top with entirely beaded, as you can see. Now that's a ton of beads, but notice how beautifully they seat themselves right into the whole of the canvas. And the stitch I'm using there is called Brick Stitch Beading. And I'm about to show you how that's done. Okay, so now we're going to do...
And I have to give photo credit. Carolyn took these photos. She's an amazing photographer.
Isn't that great? Thank you, Carolyn. We appreciate you very, very much. Now, you probably know Brick Stitch because you've done that in...
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
Oh, pretty.
I think you can do it.
I'm sorry, I'm having some, there we go.
Technical
There we go.
Okay, here we go. And I'm going to
It was a vision problem.
To the advanced content from second. Now, okay. So I'm going to take you on my tour here, and soon it's warming up. This is Brick Stitch Beading graph, and if you like, Linda, I will send a PDF to you. And if you want this stitch graph, ask Linda, she'll send it to you in the email. You notice that a brick stitch goes over 2 canvas threads. That's the normal brick stitch that you would have done, well, for a tiny little stitch, a decorative stitch. But the interesting thing here is we come up in a hole, we skip the middle hole, and we go back down, and in the middle hole, it's going to hold the bead. That's why that top looks so smooth. And the nice thing about doing that kind of netting look is that that top is kind of puckered, it's kind of like a little dome. And this kind of beading allows for that look without splitting the canvas. So this is a very nice way to do a beading thing. Let me show you. I'm going to do it on a big screen here so you can really see what I'm doing.
And what size bead do you use on 18?
Again, I would match the canvas. So if you are doing a 13 mesh canvas, you want a bead, remember? So let me get one of my beads out here.
So 13 mesh would be a size 11.
Size 11 bead,
And an 18 would be a
little guy, 14, 15.
14. Yeah.
Okay, so a normal brick stitch would just do this, go across 2 canvas threads, 3 holes. Now I'm going to come up like I'm going to do a brick stitch. Can't find the hole here.
That pegboard's getting in.
Here. I've got a little tiny needle too, that didn't help. Okay, so normally that would be just a normal brick stitch, but I'm going to put a bead on my thread, and that little bead is going to sit in that middle hole, and then I'm going to go down in the third hole, and guess what? It seats wonderfully. My next stitch would be right next to it. Again, the same idea. Up, and you're always going bottom to top, so hopefully you have no trouble locating where you come up. Up, long, long stitch, do your bead. It's a great way to bead because I always feel in beading so many times the bead kind of slides over and it looks sloppy. So oftentimes I prefer using a cross stitch because that seats so well. But you can see even with this big bead how nicely it seats. So you go back and forth over the entire thing. And in the picture you saw, it covered beautifully at dome shape. And the fabricator had no trouble making that beautiful box. So this is a delightful stitch to use for big areas when you have a lot of beading to accomplish. Okay. Any questions on that one? It's called Brick Stitch Beading.
Nice.
I have a question on something a little different. Earlier, when you were talking about the First Ladies gowns,
okay,
you said that the gold beads had a tendency to tarnish just a little bit. Do you have to worry about using silver beads or gold beads and having them tarnish?
Well, it just shows the age, and I guess we have to live with it because you're not going to put out silver polish on it. The glass gold ones, of course, are no problem. When it's truly gold plated, then you might have some difficulty. Less with gold, more with silver. So if you don't want it to, look different over time, then be careful. Don't get the real silver ones. You wouldn't probably make the mistake because the silver ones and the gold ones are very expensive.
June, I had heard that for the silver ones that if you want to do this is very tedious, but you could cover the beads with clear nail polish, and that would prevent them.
Yes, I've heard that too. So again, a big job. Now I want to show you something else that's kind of fun. It's using a pony bead. A pony bead is like what little kids do necklaces. Let me get this so we don't have it quite so bright. Maybe you can see it better. Yeah, I think you can see that a little bit better. Okay, what this is a jar full of Halloween candy. It makes a lovely hostess gift. And all I did is take a normal little jar that you'd have jelly in, and I actually did a leaf stitch, and then I used a pony bead and I covered it with frosty rays to make it look like a pumpkin. See? I will show you that technique here, and I'll show you some other things I did with that unusual look. This was I'll put the light back on so you can really see it. This was a project that a company called Strictly Christmas asked me to do, and it's very filled with all kinds of beads and beading techniques, some of which you already learned about when I showed you the First Ladies. But this area here was a very unusual flower, and I decided to take the pony bead, instead of doing it like I did with the pumpkin, where the holes were north and south, I did it so that the hole, you look down the hole and then wrapped it in this fashion. So it became, it moves far forward in the design. So it balances out some of the stuff on the toe as well. So, and another use of that was, of course, here it is, a picture of it, so you can really see what I did there. I attached the pony bead north and south with just pearl cotton, so it was sturdily in place. And then I took my frosty rays and came out on the outside and dropped into the middle, outside to the center, outside to the center, outside to the center. And frosty rays is a very sturdy thread for this, and it does give a lot of shine to it. And for this guy, the one that you just saw, I actually went, and the bead this time was set so that the holes were at the top and the bottom. And I actually wired the bead in place and then wrapped always on the outside edge, just wrapping my thread around, not going to the back side of the canvas, just wrapping around the bead. And that created that cute little look that you saw here. It's a darling little hostess gift for Thanksgiving. If you're not cooking and somebody's actually invited you to their house for Thanksgiving, think about this as a nice little hostess gift. And a pony bead is a little plastic bead that you will find at Michael's or other places. One bag of it you will have for the whole neighborhood. And I think Linda probably has some too that she can give you to try that out. So that's another nice way of operating and creating an interesting look. Beading doesn't always have to be on a First Lady's gown. It can also be a nice little gift.
And you also use that technique on the Halloween Santa from the Year of Santas?
Yeah, I did. So you get to the store, you get a chance to look at all the stuff. So all my stuff is out there making money for Linda. So, that's why I didn't show it to her. Anyway, this is really fun and it goes very quickly. I taught this interestingly. We have a knit shop here. We don't have a needlepoint store. And there was a program where one of the young designer teachers there did a class where she did embellishing on knitting, and they combined my efforts embellishing on needlepoint. And I showed this technique. It was right near the holiday. And one of the women asked if she could have a couple extra pieces of canvas, and of course I was happy to share it with her. And then 2 days later she came back to the store when I was teaching my normal class and showed me she had done name tags for all the members of her family who were coming to Thanksgiving dinner, and each one of them got one of these little pumpkins on their name tag. So cute idea.
Very sweet.
Okay, and we're not any questions on any of that?
Do pony beads come in different sizes?
No, they don't. They come in different colors, but they don't come in different sizes. And I generally just got white or clear because I never know what I'm going to use it for, and I don't want the color underneath to intrude. If I'm doing white, I don't want it to have a color on it. So usually white or clear. If you and you'll go into the children's area of crafts, not into the beading department, because they really are funny little pieces. So, okay. They're this size, so they're a good size. Any other questions on that? You're being quiet. That scares me when people are quiet. What are
June, I had a question on the brick stitch.
Okay, let's go back to our.
Just does it automatically stick in the middle there, the way you of course had to come out?
When you come up and you put a bead on, it will fall into that once you go down to the second hole. It will naturally fall into that hole. And honestly, I'm a little fussy, retentive girl, and I really don't like when a bead slides over, and no matter how hard you work so it just matches a stitch, very often it doesn't. And so if you come up and go down this way in the hole in one, kind of like Tiger Wood, hole in one, and then it seats there. And as you could see when you saw the picture earlier, that formed a beautiful mesh almost of beads, and it was really easy to do. So I highly recommend it. And one of the things that both Suzanne and I talked about the other day was when you're working with bugle beads, a lot of the beads we're using are either made out of pearl or they're made out of plastic. And so they may have a little rough edge, but they're not too awful. But when you start doing bugle beads, those often have they're made out of glass, so they have very sharp edges. So what you might consider doing, a bugle bead is like an 11-0 size. So if you string onto your thread a little guy, another 14 or 15, then put the bugle on, then put another little guy, 14, 15, and that forms like a little top and a bottom to that bugle bead, and it prevents the thread from getting cut. So keep that in mind. That little bugle, that little tiny 14, 15 bead snugs right against its buddy, the bugle bead, and prevents you from having your thread be broken off. So you don't want to end up with the beads on the floor at the church.
It also helps with the bugle bead to use a nail file, emery board on each end.
Okay.
And that helps.
Can you do,
Suzanne.
with your stitch guide, can you tell us like 1 to 2, 3 to 4? Can you show us how?
This,
on
I
your-
usually go across. Again, I tend to do that. Some people like to go on the diagonal. I'm not a good diagonal girl for some reason. It doesn't work for me. So I go across like this, 1 to 2, drop down 3, back up for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm doing this. Do, 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 do.
So you always start at the bottom then?
Yeah, frankly, long stitches, and this is not just for beading. When you do long stitches, it's a very good idea, good practice to come up at the bottom and down at the top. And the reason is, if you come up this hole, you're probably coming up in a clean hole. When you go down in this hole, you're likely going into somebody else's territory and there's a stitch there. So you come up clean, but you go down dirty. And when you do that, you tighten up the stitch that is adjacent, and it's easier for you to find the empty hole than it is a filled one. So clean to filled, clean to filled, clean to filled. And the same on this row. If I already put this stitch in,
Look
look at here, bottom to top, empty to fill.
I'll look later.
clean
Let
to
me
dirty.
have this class.
June, could you also add, did you use just the stitching, the beading thread, or did you use a special thread?
No, after my experience with beads at the church, I am a firm believer in Fireline. I use it all the time. And here's another little motherly advice for you. Fireline is very easy to thread. Some of the silks and other threads are not as easy. And I have a lot of elderly clients who say, I'm never going to bead because I can't thread the damn needle. So I think the Fireline is the answer because it slides through like wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, I use Fireline all the time. And the size Linda sells works with most needles. You can get finer ones or a little thicker one. Don't get the thicker. It doesn't work as well as a skinny one. So, and Linda has.
And you don't need to double it. You can just use it single.
Right.
Yeah,
And
single.
stretch it like you do beading
No,
thread?
none of that. It's a plastic filament. So it's like truly like fishing line. I think that's where it began its career as a fishing line piece.
Right.
So, and it's easy to thread. So if you have your choice, do Fireline. The other thing is it doesn't change the color of the bead if you're doing clear. Now here's another little motherly hint. Let's say you're doing a berry and you want a little shadow. So you want the outside edge bead to be a little darker. So if you bead the bright side with clear filament, and then the side that you want the shadow, bead that with the gray tone that Linda sells, it will naturally shade a wee bit darker and will give that curved appearance that you want for
a berry.
A berry or flower center is what I was thinking of. So.
Wow.
June, when you went 1 to 2 and then 3 to 4, can the 3 to 4 be where the 5 to 6 is? Can you just go straight across?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, good. Okay.
I like to set my pattern, so that's why I do this back and forth.
Okay.
And I was doing needlepoint long before I was doing beading, so that for me, a brick stitch has to go up and down and up and down. But yes, if you want to just go every other and every other, yes, you certainly can do that.
All righty.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that would make it do something different.
So I'd like to interject something, please.
Sure.
All right.
Your party.
It is a party. Every day is a party at Old World Designs. So I just want to mention to all of you as a reminder, June McKnight and Suzanne, under our COVID conditions, are available for private lessons virtually. So the way that would work is you would contact the store. We would set up a time and a date. You would submit an email of your project to June or Suzanne, whichever one is teaching your class. Each one of these teachers would take approximately 30 minutes to work up a guide for you as to what they want to teach you, what decorative stitches apply to your canvas, what types of threads would work. And then the latter half hour would be the instruction. Now you saw both June and Suzanne have cameras that are over the tops of their computers that show canvas. It shows their hands at work. They can actually demonstrate a stitch for you. And they would also supply you with a hard copy of the stitches that you discuss with her and the recording of the Zoom lesson. So that you would then have the ability to go back to that recording and stop it at a point you want that you needed some further assistance with. So that is something I want to get that point across. The second point would be both of these women are available to do custom stitch guides as well. So obviously then you'd be submitting your canvas to Old World Designs. We write up a traveler or a work order for it, expressing your wishes and desires to whichever teacher you choose. And then it would be submitted to them to develop a stitch guide, and each stitch guide comes with graphs, so you know how to execute the stitch. Each section of the canvas, you are given what fiber to use, how that fiber is used on the canvas, what the ply structure is, etc., and a diagram of the stitch that is being recommended. I believe we produce an excellent product. And as a result of June's and Suzanne's efforts, that has even taken that up into the outer stratosphere. So I do want to
mention. It's fun to do the Zoom with us too. It really is. All one-on-one, right, Suzanne? Yeah.
Sorry, I had to mute. It was doggy dinner time. There was a lot of clanging.
So the other thing I wanted to mention is we really, because we all miss one another, I know I certainly miss hugging people, that I think that we could turn this into a Zoom group lesson. So if we did a 2-hour quickie in and out Zoom lesson regarding beading, we could set up a time on a Saturday if that's convenient, and we would charge a fee, but we would give each one of you a kit. So you'd be given a piece of canvas, a beading needle, beads, etc., and then you would have your lesson. I think June also,
I have it.
June has a show and tell that we also are thinking about teaching as a class. So June, take it away.
Okay, I like that take it away part. I feel like I should go with my little hat and cane and do a little dance for you. Well, there's an interesting story about the show and tell here that I'm going to set up for you. A couple of years ago, there was a trade show in Texas, and I was working with a company to some stitches for some of their product. And they said, we're going to do a little competition. We're going to send out a canvas to 3 of our favorite teachers and ask them to design the work on top. And then you can, because we think it might make a real interesting program for shopkeepers, they could see what you're doing and how the same canvas can be executed a different way or two. And also you can explain how you came up with the idea for it. So I said, sure, I'm happy to do that. Well, they sent me this canvas, and you have to imagine this as all gray, okay? And it was a monogram, and they chose my J, And I hate the J monogram. That's why I married Doug, because he's got a great last name, McKnight, and I have a swishy M for my last name. J always looks like something from advertising or whatever. It's not very handsome. So this canvas came and it was like, oh my God, I just, usually when you get a canvas, you're so excited you can't wait to stitch it. Well, this little kid was like, oh, I hate it. And I had to, perk up my spirits because I had to get it accomplished. So I walk every day by the water here, so it's so peaceful. And on one of those walks, I thought, you know what? That gray reminds me of something I've seen on those home channels when they were decorating a tiny house and making it steampunk. Woo, steampunk. So I went to Linda's store and found all these little findings that is actually used in the jewelry making industry. These little guys are like little flowers, and let's see if I can get it in closer so you can see it. See, they're like little tiny flowers. Those are spacers.
Oh yeah.
Jewelry, okay. Likewise here, this has a hole that runs through it like the hamburger, and
Yeah,
so
right.
little flowers, and of course metallic beads that are silvery, and these little guys are awfully cute too. So I thought, well, steampunk kind of makes me kind of happy because I can use all this stuff from Linda's store. And then the gray works well because in fact the silver and the gray go well together. And the steampunk represents when the steam engines were around, and that's the time of the Victorian period. So to make this softer, because I thought I don't want it to look like the railroad track, I want it to be feminine in appearance. So I added these silk flowers along the far edge. And all of a sudden, when all of that began to develop, I thought, you know what? I really like this. This is not bad at all. So this may be a possibility for us. I think of this as a wonderful insert in a gift box, maybe for a wedding, particularly if your side is related to the groom. It's, the girl gets all the fussy, and the boy should be honored as well. And they all love their last initials. So this might be a gift that would keep on giving and represent you to the groom's side of the family. And of course, you honor them with the white flowers as a suggestion that it might be a wedding piece. But this is a possibility. Now, it's not down and dirty like Linda was suggesting. It might take a little bit longer than that because there is also silk stitches as well as attaching all this stuff on it. The aqua panel was actually drawn by the company that produced it. And I have to tell you that the three of us, three teachers, and I won't mention the other two, but all presented our idea. And guess who won the show? Anyway, I thought this might be an interesting piece for us to do. And again, it's decorative. But it's not too girly, and it's not just beads. It's this little findings that it comes from a wonderful company from the trade show, and then it can suit us all up for this. But just be careful which initial you want. Don't choose to do a J.
Yeah.
You can do a swooshy J.
Yeah, you could do swooshy J.
Yeah.
Something Nike would use. I don't know.
I will tell you that if there is interest in pursuing any of the items we've discussed, I think the easiest way is you can email me and let me know.
Sure.
Certainly, if you want to let me know now, that's fine. If you prefer to call the store, we are open. Our COVID hours have been 10 to 4, Monday through Saturday, and I have a feeling they will be that for some time. As we all begin to get inoculated, I know I got my second vaccine on Monday. We will entertain being back in the store at a future date, but I do think this Zoom stitch-in, I think it's been really fun. Yeah. I'm going to continue this. Yeah. I do think because Zoom allows us to reach people like Martha and Susan in North Carolina, Christy in Virginia, that Zoom allows us to reach people outside of our area. So certainly we would continue doing Zoom classes as well.
Right. This canvas, the steampunk canvas would have to be ordered. So this wouldn't be like, we can't do it next week. We have to get the canvases in. You'd have to tell us what initial you'd want. So this is sort of for the future.
Next year, probably.
Well, maybe next year.
Well, we could get them locally painted.
Yeah. You think maybe you do it locally. Yeah. You
Yeah.
can do it.
Yeah.
But the other bead class, which is a more general how to bead,
right.
We can do next month.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
So,
If there's interest.
so there
I
was
would do it.
there was a class that June taught, and I've been wanting to take it for I don't know how long, probably 2 years now. And things came up and the class never happened. But it was like all these little sampler things you did with beads. And Linda had this whole thing that you had done. And I saw it hanging in the store and I went, oh my gosh, I'd love to learn all these different techniques.
Was it like this?
No, it wasn't that one. It was on I guess it was a long, I don't know, it was like, I don't know, Linda, it's in your store.
I think, June, it was, you know, the long strips you did with the.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I can show one here. Keep talking amongst yourselves. I'll be back.
Yeah.
I have to apologize for the interruption earlier. I thought that I had muted and.
We just heard all your dirt. That's okay.
Well, I'm just at the end of the day, and my husband has problems, and it can be difficult.
Mine has problems too, but he's been pretty wonderful today. So
Mine's cooking dinner, so I've got no complaints.
Oh, wow. How did that happen? Was it something like this that you saw?
It was
June
strips.
can't see it.
Can you spotlight her?
June has to do it. You can pin it yourself.
You know what? I will do the traditional way that I know how to do is share screen.
There you go.
I pinned her.
It takes a moment for the machine to recognize that's what I asked it to do. Like this. Let's pull out so you can see the size of it. Was it like that?
No, it was in strips.
Yeah, it was.
This is a strip. It's a wide strip.
No.
Skinnier.
Yeah, it was skinnier strips.
I had them propped up back there where we had the beads in the cupboard, but you moved the beads over.
Well, that's what this was.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And that's all the techniques that appeared in the book Bling.
Bling.
Yeah. There are 4 panels that I had. Was that it?
I don't remember that. That's not what I remember. I just remember being
Okay, well,
wanting to.
we'll have to think about what that might be.
Do you know which one I'm talking about, Linda?
You know, here's what I recall. We had 2 of those boards in the store. The one that June just showed was one of them. There may have been another, but definitely the one June just showed was one of them.
Yeah, and it was back there in the cupboard where the beads hang. But
in the Bling book, every one of these pages has a stitch and tells you the graph. And of course, in order to photograph, I stitched every one of these.
Mm-hmm.
And I did 4 boards of that. You saw the First Lady board, but I had 3 others as well. Maybe that's what you remember seeing.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to do a class, Deborah, that goes over those boards, reviews the techniques of those boards? Are you nodding yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
That's a quiet nod.
Okay. I know, she was so polite.
Oh, Deborah, that was funny.
All right, now, okay. So I'm writing all these little ideas down, you know, so I get it.
I'm loving the class for taking with Suzanne right now.
Thank you.
Yep, loving it.
What class is that?
Yeah.
So I teach a group needlepoint class on Thursday mornings and Saturday mornings and Saturday afternoons once a month. And it's 2 hours and there's up to 6 participants, and you bring your own canvas, and then we talk about what stitches and what fibers to use. And then in the Thursday class, I usually do a demonstration of a stitch.
Nice.
So today I demonstrated turkey work and a fun little stitch called the popcorn stitch.
Are those virtual classes or are they in person?
They're Zoom.
Oh,
Great.
Yeah, we're all virtual right now. And as you all can tell from my voice, I personally cannot wait until people are back at my classroom table. But I will tell all of you that we will keep some aspect of Zoom because we are able to reach out to people outside of our area.
I teach an art class through the adult school, and I have been doing it since last summer, and it's on Zoom. And when we were in person, I would get 10 to 12 people. Well, I have like 24 people, and they are from across the United States and even a girl from Germany. So there is some advantage to Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
and you don't have to dress up. You can just, no travel time. You just, you can be in your jammies.
Right.
One-on-one Zoom classes that Linda introduced earlier are a really nice way to get help, particularly because there's no distractions, just you and me. And if you have trouble, I can keep going over the technique. And best of all, you get the tape afterwards, the video. It's kind of like Netflix. You can see it again and again.
Even if you don't want to, huh?
Yeah.
It's
It
like
improves my rating, so I hope you will watch it a lot.
underlining all the sexy parts in the book.
Oh, I don't know.
May I ask a question about flat back bead, the crystals?
Yes.
And applying them with, I can't remember the type of glue that you use on them.
Oh, that kind.
Use 6,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can do glue. Mm-hmm.
I used to have a glue I loved, but the company stopped making it.
Well, June, I
part.
have the situation that I did the big Christmas egg, the panoramic Christmas egg, years and years ago, and was advised about the wrong beading thread to do for all the holly beads. And so I have had a number come off, obviously. And now I'm in the process of taking them all off and replacing them.
It's E6000 is what we use on ball gowns now, because you can't get the glue that we all used to.
May I interject one thing with regard to this question? So I want to tell you that I am honoring June and Suzanne this evening, but I am going to mention Sherry Bray does come to the store, and she is coming in April. She will be here in person. Sherry is also a lover of beads and embellishment, and she has been a proponent of gluing flat backs onto a canvas, and that is the glue she uses, is that E6000.